The Politics program is brought to you, as always, by everybody who supports patreon.com/JURY. Here's what you get. You kick in literally any money. We're talking just whatever. A buck a week. That's when you get charged. Once a week you get charged on my Patreon, right? If you give me anything, every single day of your work week, Monday through Friday, you get the headlines written out by me, what I am reading every single morning, culled and spun for you in your inbox every single day, Monday through Friday. That's for anything. You give $3 a week, you get 2 extra versions of this show, a headlines edition on Monday and on Friday. So go ahead and check it out. You also support my other one, Mike Show Jury. It's all there for you. Patreon.com/JURY. But enough of talking about how we do the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes.
And a boom, boom, boom. Skitty pop, pop. Boom, boom. Welcome, everybody, to the Politics program. My name is Justin Robert Young. I am going to be your guide through the week that was and the week that will be in politics. We got a lot to talk about. And it's my kind of week in political news. My kind of week when everybody's talking about Ted Cruz's Twitter. That's what I like. He liked some porno. That's what I like. Oh, man. How can you not love it? How can you not love it, ladies and gentlemen, when the week is dominated by Ted Cruz getting all out here in these streets liking scrape pornography? If you're unaware, I gotta explain some things to people that might not be up on stuff. First and foremost, here's the deal. There's this thing called Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Justin R. Young. It's really me tweeting. There's nobody else that is tweeting on my account. In fact, I just created a new account, Jury Mega Feed, JURY Mega Feed on Twitter, that is going to be where you'll get everything that I do. I'm still building it out so it's everything. But right now, it's just all the alerts from SoundCloud, from YouTube, of Politics, Jury, 1-900 Wrestling. Eventually, it'll be Night Attack, the morning stream that I'm on. Basically, anything that I do, I'll make sure goes up on there. That means that my account, at Justin R. Young, is just me tweeting. Now, periodically, I'll do something called liking a tweet. I'm explaining this to people who don't know what Twitter is. I'm a like a tweet. Used to be a star, now it's a heart. That means that I want to just let the person who wrote that tweet know, hey, good job. You know, either I agree with you, or yeah, that was well written, or that's funny. That's cool. I like that. Liked. I mean, I don't like it enough to retweet it, but, you know, I like it. Man, that might not be appropriate to retweet. Might not be appropriate for my audience. I like it. I like that. Right there. So, what happens with Twitter now, and this snuck up on people, a lot of people still don't know this, is that now likes, things that you like, show up in your friend's feed as if it were retweeted. But it just doesn't say retweeted. It says your friend liked this. Now, this has come to a surprise for many folks because they've been out here in these streets, despite the fact that likes have always been publicly searchable. They've been out here in these streets liking some grimy ass shit, liking like some dirty booty pics, liking some scandalous stuff. And somebody got a little too gully about that. So pause on that. Let's understand this other element of Twitter. Twitter is really cool because it gives you, theoretically, the less censored, by-the-minute feed of people's thoughts. That's how I use it. Funny things in the moment, right? For example, I had a tweet that I did not wind up tweeting when this story that I'm about to tell you about broke. Remind me as we get to the end, because I got to explain this first. This is what happens. Ted Cruz has a Twitter. Now, I personally do not believe that Ted Cruz has Twitter on his phone. I believe that it is just a necessary way to connect with people in the modern age. I believe he's got a social media team. It's part of his staffers. But Ted Cruz does something that I believe will fall out of favor with politicians and celebrities. Because he has decided to have his cake and eat it too. His Twitter, and let's go to it right now, just so we understand what we're dealing with. Twitter.com/Ted Cruz. If you go there, which we are right now, let's go ahead right over here. We're going to go to Ted Cruz's Twitter. It's got a picture of him. Got a picture of him talking to a packed house, right? And then right there in his bio, it says, father of two, Heidi Cruz's husband, fighter for liberty, representing the great state of Texas in the U.S. Senate. Nice. All right. So here's what's I hope Ted Cruz changes for him. And here's what I think will fall out of favor. In fact, I'm so clear it'll fall out of favor, I want everybody to read my lips. If you don't write your own Twitter, say in your bio, you don't write your own Twitter. Say that periodically you write your own Twitter, and if you write a tweet, you will sign them, "This is really me." But otherwise, do not assume that everything that is on your Twitter is written from you. Ted Cruz learned this the hard way. Oh, he learned it the hard way. And I do mean hard. Because it was late Monday evening when all of a sudden my timeline went wild. My timeline went cray. Why? Because when you go on Twitter to this little tab right here, you have a couple things: the tweets, the follows, the followers, and the likes. Ted Cruz, at the time of the recording here, has liked 1,243 tweets. One of them that he has deleted liking. It has been deleted. Was a post by the Twitter account Sexual Posts. What does Sexual Posts put up on their account? Well, my friends, pornography. That's what they put up. And indeed, that was left up on Ted Cruz's Twitter for hours. Hours. We read now from a CNN story. Senator Ted Cruz told reporters Tuesday that it was a staffing issue that led to a pornographic video being liked on his Twitter account, which has since been removed. It was a staffing issue and it was inadvertent. It was a mistake and it was not a deliberate action, Cruz said, according to the Washington Post. We're dealing with it internally, but it was a mistake. It was not malicious conduct. An aide to Cruz confirmed the comments to CNN, adding that there would be an internal effort to figure out who was responsible. Cruz declined to comment when asked by CNN about the incident. Twitter users noticed late Monday that Cruz's account liked a tweet from an account called Sexual Posts that a porn video attached. Early Tuesday morning, Cruz's senior communication director, Catherine Frazier, tweeted that the tweet had been removed and reported, which fucking doesn't make sense. Because you're not, what are you, reporting? I would find it offensive if they reported Sexual Posts for, like, violating the Twitter TOS. That would be the worst. I said this on the morning stream, but it bears repeating here. If they went out there and reported Sexual Posts for existing, that would be like having sex with somebody, and then when everybody finds out, you're like, whore, she's a whore. That's a Mark move. That's dumb. I frown upon that. I don't know if they did, though. That was just their initial thing. What was the video? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you came here. Phrasing. The video was one from the film Moms Bang Teens 20. You know, and they say Hollywood doesn't have any new ideas. Moms Bang Teens 20. And in fact, here's a follow-up story. Porn star in video liked by Ted Cruz wishes he'd paid for it. He pirated that video. He should have paid Reality Kings for a subscription, says actress Corey Chase. The actress who starred in the porn video liked by Ted Cruz's Twitter account has harsh words for the Texas senator. Quote, I don't like that he watched it for free. He pirated that video. Should have paid Reality Kings for the subscription. Cruz denied that he was responsible for the incident, blaming the issue on a staffing issue. The clip in question was a 2-minute, 20-second snippet from a scene the 36-year-old filmed a year ago for Moms Bang Teens 20. The New York Post noted that Chase bears a resemblance to Cruz's wife, Heidi Cruz. Chase suspects that he may have liked the conservative outfit that she wore in the scene. The Florida-based porn actress has fond memories of the production, which co-stars Bruce Venture and Avalon Hart. She says, Hart played my stepdaughter who stayed at home pretending she was sick. I see her having sex with her boyfriend, and of course, it turns me on. I always try to get into the situation, and there's only been 1 or 2 scenes in an 8-year career that didn't turn me on. As a resident of Central Florida, Chase hasn't been able to see the reaction to the scene because her web access has been intermittent due to Hurricane Irma. It all comes together. Phrasing. I hope that Corey Chase calls her senator. I hope that she calls Marco Rubio and she's like, hey, listen, man, you need to go get your mans. Go talk to your boy. I'm a constituent. That man should not be flouting the copyright that I have made my living on. I believe that Senator Ted Cruz's staff, I don't care if it's him, I don't care if it's a staffer, somebody needs to prove to me that they went and paid for a Reality King subscription to watch my scene in Moms Bang Teens 20. You want to see Moms Bang Teens 21? You need to pay that man. the king of reality. Brr, hear ye, hear ye. I am the reality king, and I have been stolen from, pilfered by Ted Cruz's staffing issue. Of course I love this story. Of course I love this story. How could you not love this story? I don't believe Ted Cruz did this. Although it begs this question. What is weirder? And actually, no, I'm not going to say weirder. What reality would you like to live in more? What reality would you like to live in more? Was it Ted Cruz liking a porn video where somebody who looks like his wife frigs herself while watching two young people go at it in what we can assume is the prelude to a three-way? Or that it was his staffer who works with Ted and his wife, Heidi, closely, getting his or her jollies off by watching somebody that looks like Heidi in the middle of a sexual situation. Which reality do you want to live in more? Because the Ted situation is more boring, right? Like, who looks up porn that looks like their significant other? I'd prefer that it's some 20-year-old staffer who looks at Heidi Cruz and says, yeah, man, can get it. I'm going to fulfill this fantasy a little bit by looking up mature glasses, cardigan. I'm into it. I think two is the correct answer. So here was the tweet that I had in my head. Let me see if I can phrase this correctly. As all this is happening, I am watching the late game of Monday Night Football. It's a thrilling ending. Denver Broncos versus San Diego Chargers. San Diego Chargers have a rookie kicker who is Korean. Rare for the National Football League. There's not a ton of Koreans in the league. That man's name is Young-Ho Koo. First name, Young-Ho. Last name, Koo. K-O-O. So this is all happening at the exact same time, which is what's great about Twitter. Los Angeles Chargers. Sorry. Los Angeles Chargers. So the Chargers come storming back. Big thrilling ending. They get in field goal range. They have a chance to, I believe, tie the game. It all comes down to the rookie kicker who's got a leg for days, Young-Ho Koo. Young-Ho Koo kicks. It's through the uprights. However, Denver called a timeout. They iced the kicker. So now he's got to do it again. Snap, kick, blocked. Denver wins. So I start tweeting out, man, that's got to be rough on Young-Ho. Quote, right? Things said by people watching the Monday Night Football late game and Ted Cruz's likes. And I didn't really think that maybe everybody would get it. And then I like, is it making fun? I thought it was kind of a low blow because, like, obviously Young-Ho is kind of a name that will elicit some kind of sideways comments for somebody that has grown up in athletics where tact is not the number one priority. So I didn't do it, but I'll tell you guys because you guys have all the context. So there we go. That was my tweet. I believe I have wasted a third of this show. I have so much more to talk about. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I don't know a lot about it. But man, when you are a mayor of a major city and it gets to 5 child sex abuse allegations before you wind up getting kicked out of your position, man, you hung on. If you're looking at child sex allegations and saying I got till 5, man, you have clung to your position as hard as you could. This is a CNN story written by Emanuela Grinberg. Seattle Mayor Ed Murray announced his resignation Tuesday, hours after new sexual abuse allegations surfaced against the embattled politician. Murray, a Democrat and the city's first openly gay mayor, said he was resigning effective 5 p.m. Wednesday so the scandal would no longer overshadow the office. The mayor's announcement came after his cousin gave an interview with the Seattle Times alleging abuse, the latest in a series of similar allegations. The cousin is the 5th person to publicly accuse Murray of child sexual abuse since a lawsuit was filed against him in April. Murray denied the allegations as he has in the past. Previously, he called them part of a political effort to stymie his progressive agenda and support for LGBTQ and immigrants' rights. Quotes from the now ex-mayor: "While the allegations against me are not true, it is important that my personal issues do not affect the ability of our city government to conduct the public business. To the people of this special city and my dedicated staff, I am sorry for this painful situation." By the way, this is the mayor that did raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and pass an ambitious affordable housing legislation and led the groundwork for a city-owned sports and entertainment arena. Man, I'll tell you what, a few hard and fast rules. When you get up to 5 child sex allegations, whoo boy, that's a lot of smoke. At a certain point, it might not, matter that there's fire. Yeah. Whoopsie doodle. Okay, let's focus on national news. Once more with feeling. That is what the GOP Congress has to face right now. They are regrouping. As you've seen, the GOP Congress thus far, while having control of the House, having control of the Senate, having control of the White House, has gotten jack shit done. In fact, looking out on Capitol Hill, you might say, for a podcast named after a Mel Brooks quote, they ain't passed shit. 7 years. Root and branch. Obamacare needs to get the hell out. Eroding the country. Obamacare, you need to get this thing out of our lives. If you like your plan, you can keep it. Huff, 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 pshaw. Why, as soon as we get control, this thing will be out of here. And they huffed and they puffed and they farted so loud that the world heard. Couldn't get it done. So now they are what we like to call in the sports world in a must-win situation. So you would think that if you are the GOP, that what you would want to do is avoid the problems that led to you shitting your pants in public on Obamacare, which would be A, actually have a plan, B, start to get a coalition on this, one that you know can pass it before you actually go to the floor. And part of what hampered their coalition last time was that they didn't reveal what the plan was going to be until the last minute. This is an issue. Rand Paul was out here on his Twitter not liking pornography with the healthcare plan, running around doing a fun Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego about where the healthcare plan was, asking to see the healthcare plan on Twitter video. So what does the GOP do this time when they need a win on tax reform? Oh, they draft it in secret. And so now, this is according to the Washington Post, they are beginning to build their coalition. The headline here is White House Republican leaders plan to reveal tax cut details in 2 weeks. So presumably what's happening is that they are behind the scenes showing the people that they need to show so they can adjust it. This is the article written by Kelsey Snell, Mike DeBonis, Damian Paletta. The White House and GOP leaders plan to reveal new details on their plan to cut corporate and individual taxes on the week of September 25th, and they are imploring lawmakers to reach a budget agreement that could smooth its passage, a key lawmaker told his colleagues Wednesday morning. House and Ways Committee Chairman Kevin Brady told other House Republicans during a closed-door meeting that they needed to unify their effort for tax cuts could fail, according to two people in the room. That was a nod to the GOP's aborted fight to replace parts of the Affordable Care Act early this year, during which the House and Senate tried to pass competing health care bills, splitting the party and culminating in its effort's failure. They want much a different outcome on their tax overhaul effort. Brady told his colleagues that, quote, the stakes are higher than ever that we deliver this year. Later in the evening, House Speaker Paul D. Ryan left open the possibility that their tax plan would cut the government's revenue, adding to the government's budget deficit, but potentially averting the need to make tough decisions that could leave legislation tangled in a political thicket. So effectively what they need to do is pass a budget, and then they'll pass their health care or their tax reform bill. Because they don't want to pass a tax reform bill and then have to redo what their budget is. Effectively what they want to do is have permission to go into debt. The Republicans want permission to go into debt. So this is still behind closed doors. They're just now starting to reach out and saying, look, we got 2 weeks to get everybody on board. So come along, Pond. Will they do it? I mean, safe money's on no, right? Safe money's on them screwing it up. Safe money's on them not understanding that this is something that they really, really, really need to do, and instead allowing all of them to grandstand for cheap political points. I mean, what could possibly be leading to them focusing on the now instead of what they need to do? What on earth could possibly be forcing them to rush through this instead of getting it right? What Donald J. Trump on Twitter. With Irma and Harvey devastation, tax cut and tax reform is needed more than ever. Go, Congress, go. Now. Do it now. Go. Go, Congress, go. Go, Congress, go. Man, Donald doesn't give a shit. Donald doesn't give a shit. Just go do something. He'll figure out a way to spin it. Just go now. Pass a thing. Pass whatever. He'll figure out. He can talk about it later. Just pass things. I told people that they would be tired of winning. Nobody's even fatigued. We need more winning now. Meanwhile, let's go from one bill in the in Congress that is likely not to succeed because of incompetence to one that literally has no chance of succeeding. That, of course, is Bernie Sanders, the most influential Democrat who's not, part of the party. Sanders has introduced today a universal health care bill, Medicare for all. Now, let's read the lead in the Nutcraft here. This is by David Weigel of the Washington Post. Senator Bernie Sanders will introduce legislation on Wednesday that would expand Medicare into a universal health care insurance program with the backing of at least 15 Democratic senators, a record level of support for an idea that has been relegated to the fringes during the last Democratic presidency. Quote Bernie Sanders, "This is where the country has to go," Sanders said in his interview at a Senate office. "Right now, if we want to move away from a dysfunctional, wasteful, bureaucratic system into a rational healthcare system that guarantees coverage for everybody in a cost-effective way, the only way to do it is Medicare for all." Smart messaging by Bernie. If we want to get away from a dysfunctional, wasteful, bureaucratic system, let's create a larger, more dysfunctional, wasteful, bureaucratic system. But he's good. This is very Trump-esque. Just say that your thing, your new change is getting away from the thing that everybody hates by effectively doing the exact same thing. But here's what's important. It's not important that he put this out. To be honest, we got a really smart email about this that is going to kind of crystallize a lot of what I'm going to say here. But what matters about this is not whether or not this will pass. What matters about this is that he's got 15 people to back it, knowing that it's not going to pass. But the people that are backing it, including Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, are likely the kind of people that are running for president in 2020. More specifically, there's a little something coming up. I don't know if y'all heard of it. The 2018 elections. And in those 2018 elections, we're going to have the possibility that a Republican majority might go away. In fact, the way that you energize in down ballot votes and down ballot elections is to make it not about the local issue, make it about the national issue. That way you can get a lot of free press. You can create wedges, is what they're called, to get one party into office as long as they support one thing. It would be, what would it be? If all of a sudden a lot of one thing kind of came over into another thing, it might be called a little...
Just a wave.
It might be as if the Republican majority would be...
And quietly get swallowed by a wave.
A what, Colin?
It gets swallowed by a wave.
That would be the issue. So now you create a wedge. You create something that generic candidate McGirt versus incumbent candidate McSweeney, which essentially nobody's going to give a rat's ass about whether McGirt wants to increase the bleep blop in the Jeep Jorp. That's a local issue. What they're going to care about is, I'm for Medicare for all. Are you for Medicare for all? Because we need to put as many of these people in Congress right now. Because in 2020, we're going to have a president that's for Medicare for all, and we are going to do what no Democratic president has ever done before. We are going to it'll be worth having Donald Trump in office, because we have energized a far left base so much that we are going to do what no liberal presidency has ever done before. We are going to put single payer health care in every American's hands. Also, my name is generic candidate Jeep Jorp. Vote Jeep Jorp. And by the way, I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening right now. Because Bernie Sanders runs the Democratic Party, and he ain't a part of it. Hillary Clinton is writing a book about how it was everybody else's fault that she lost. Bernie Sanders is in Congress pushing a bill that I believe Hillary would have eventually wanted to get to. The natural progression of Obamacare was, this is a first step, let's get to single payer. And I think everybody kind of knew this. The right knew this. The left knew this. Bernie Sanders is the one who's going to get credit for it. He is stunting in Hillary's mouth. He dropped a fireball on her fucking face on Colbert the other day as he was kind of demurring on wanting to talk about it. He just said, yeah, you know, she lost to the most beatable person who's ever run for president. I'm sure she's upset. Mic drop. Bada boom, boom, boom. Skiddy pop, pop. Boom, boom. That's what Bernie Sanders has done. That is what Bernie Sanders is doing. Bernie Sanders is cementing himself in liberal lore. That is my plan. Bernie gonna give it to you. That's why the 1%. Shots fired, I'm saying. All right, we got a couple other things, but we're kind of running out of time because I got some really good emails here and we got some other stuff. But I do want to talk about one thing. Longtime listeners to the show might remember ya boy, Aubrey Sitterson. Aubrey's been on this show before. Aubrey's a socialist. Speaking of Bernie, Aubrey's out here like with a socialist, like a capital S. Socialist. Like nationalized industries. Socialist. I love Aubrey. Now, I would say that me and Aubrey probably agree on about, I don't know, if you were to Venn diagram our personal political views, I would say we probably agree about 30%. On the economics, not so much. But I love not agreeing with my friends. I seek out people in public spaces that I don't agree with. Why? Because I believe that it keeps me sharp. It makes me think about my own worldview. It makes me double check my facts. It makes me understand what I believe in and what I don't, and then identify the reasons for which I believe in them. Aubrey's also an extraordinarily talented person. He's a comic book writer. He's a podcaster. He's a performer. That dude writes and performs a podcast called Scald. If you like Conan the Barbarian, if you like sword and sandals kind of fantasy, man, do I encourage you go listen to Scald. Written by Aubrey, He records it all in one take. 50 Grand says, I get this in one take, and he does. He also has been brought on to write G.I. Joe. And right now, he is in a bit of a pickle. This is the article from bleedingcool.com. G.I. Joe comic book writer and 9/11 tweet storm. Aubrey Sitterson is a writer on the 16th anniversary of 9/11. He wrote, "Oh, good. It's self-centered national tragedy remembrance from people who weren't even anywhere near New York City Day. Unless you were there or lost somebody, this is what your social media remembrances look like." And, oh, man, that got taken away. But the picture that was there was a Marriott stanchion, a little like a table thing that said, in remembrance of 9/11, all guests have access to free muffins and coffee from like 8:45 to 9:15. So let's first understand, because I am self-centered and it's a one mic show where I get to talk about whatever I want. Let's understand my reaction to Aubrey Sitterson's tweet, because it came at a very interesting time as I was about to write a self-centered national tragedy remembrance from somebody who wasn't anywhere near New York City. I was about to write on the politics headline thing, just a little something about how pivotal 9/11 was for me, not necessarily because of the tragedy itself, which I think has been remembered and dissected 1.5 million times, but because it was a demonstration of a total breakdown of major systems and how we functioned when all these systems had broken down. And by that, I mean media, I mean financial, I mean travel. What happens when these things go down? It put an X-ray on these systems for me, and it very much informed how I've lived the rest of my life, the next 16 years. It made me realize that I can do things independently because I saw these systems, if ever briefly, kind of flicker out. And I had written about 40% of that. And then Aubrey's stuff comes into my feed. And I'm like, you want to know what? I can write this another day. Because Aubrey was in New York City on 9/11. And I know it was fucked up for me being in Syracuse, where there's a lot of people. It's in New York State. There's a lot of people from New York City, from the surrounding environs, from upstate, like the Westchester, that area of New York where people commute. Long Island, where people commute. New Jersey, where people commute. So a lot of people who didn't know whether or not their dad was in the tower, right? A lot of people from the Washington area. Parents worked at the Pentagon. Didn't know whether or not their parents were dead. And that was fucked up for me to be around it. I can't imagine if you're in New York City and literally everybody you look at has the possibility that somebody they know or love didn't come home. And now all of a sudden you got to go through your mental Rolodex and figure out whether or not you knew somebody in the tower. As it turned out, my cousin worked in the World Trade Center. After college, I wound up working for the company that he worked for that was still in the financial district, but had to, find a new office because theirs was taken out by, radical Islamic terrorism. So, If I can get 5 minutes of thoughtful dialogue out of Aubrey Sitterson's tweet, if we can have in the chat room right now various different views based on the idea of how we are to remember 9/11 16 years on, because guess what? How we remember 9/11 16 years on is a lot closer to how we're going to remember it 50 years on than it was any year prior, right? We are slowly making 9/11 Pearl Harbor pivotal, important, something that needs to be understood and remembered. Was the tweet blunt? Yeah. Was it from a very specific point of view that's not necessarily echo chamber friendly? Yeah. And you want to know what? I applaud Aubrey for that. I applaud him. Because there's not a lot of people out here that want to have opinions that aren't for their echo chamber. And it made me think. I appreciated it. Now, I say all this, and I draw a circle around my point, and that is the end of my point, that tweet was blunt, but it made me think, and hopefully it has led to a good dialogue right here on this show. Because I want you to understand that that's how that tweet, for me, should be thought about and talked about. Even if you disagree with it. Even if you think, oh, Jesus, man, really? Disagree with that tweet. Because, full disclosure, I'm a stand for Aubrey. I'm sticking up for Aubrey. He's been on this show. I like him. I think he's a talented writer. People are going after him. People want his job. Bleeding Cool wrote this, senseless bravado combined with the principles of free speech. What could be more American? Apparently not. There were strong reactions from the offended states. And boom, here you go. You just got a lot of people that are upset about it. Dude, you lost me. You lost me getting G.I. Joe, a great American hero. You are not. At replying IDW Publishing, which runs runs G.I. Joe. People saying, oh, I've canceled G.I. Joe. I've canceled everything by IDW. And now there's a couple of these G.I. Joe message boards that are like, oh, we're no longer promoting anything with that. Now, let me just say this. Stoic Squirrel says also, these are the people who call other people snowflakes. And Coach from Home says, hey, maybe Twitter wasn't the best platform to address that particular viewpoint. Maybe, maybe not. But you want to know what? Debate the tweet. Debate the tweet. Because I think there's room to say, hey, man, you know, obviously personal pain notwithstanding, Coach from Home's point of view is not unreasonable. Nor do I think that Aubrey would think it was unreasonable. To say, you want to know what? That wasn't for me. Maybe a place where there's more context, I would have more fully understood your point. Here's all I have to say. If you're going after Aubrey Sitterson and trying to get him fired, I just, that's grody to me. I don't dig that. I think that Aubrey's a very, very important voice. For me, personally. Maybe not for the world. Maybe you like him, maybe you don't. That's your right. That's your right. He's a spicy Twitter follow at times. He comes with takes, baby. And I appreciate it. Thankfully, IDW Publishing is standing up for him with G.I. Joe. And now these people are moving on to Hasbro, which owns the property of G.I. Joe. Here's all I want to say for the entire thing. You should be lucky to have an artist that speaks their mind like Aubrey does. You should be lucky. I haven't talked to him about this, but I hope he understands that the stuff he is coming out at, this kind of stuff, it's not meant to be agreed or not agreed with. It's meant to be discussed. And I'm in an era when everybody on Twitter literally just wants to run into their echo chamber, say the thing that gets applause, and then feel good about themselves. I'm glad he can rattle those chains a little bit, because it made me think. I like thinking. Again, this is the point of this podcast. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm asking you to do it with me. I'm not here to sort everybody into correct political buckets. I'm just here to think. I'm here for you to think with me. And I would like to think through his tweet and not kind of look for his job, not try to headhunt for his gig. So big ups to Aubrey Sitterson. I'm with him. TVC God says, you can't tell me to think. Well, you're right. I can't. But I'm asking you. I'm asking you to think. All right. You know, I'll tell you what. Let's blow off some steam a little bit. Let's blow off some steam. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Oh, yeah. I'm going to need all y'all to get up into this rented limo, because we are taking data beyond the velvet rope and letting loose the carnal pleasure of surveys. Spritz that axe from the bathroom attendant and break that $60 into ones, because this is the Dance. This is a Quinnipiac poll for the New Jersey governor's race, taken from September 7th to the 12th. 875 likely voters with a 4.5 margin of error. Coming up first to the stage with a 33% share of the poll. Let's get a big round of applause for Kim Guadagno. Oh, she's a Republican. But unfortunately, her poll numbers are in the red. Man, it's hard to follow Big Chris Christie. But let's take a look.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
And your headliner. Oh, getting up and working it at 58%. A 25% spread of the vote. It is Phil Yeah. Chris Christie's so unpopular, you could run Jesus Christ as a Republican in New Jersey, and they are screwed. You done, homie. I'm sorry. Chris Christie has shit that bed so stank that it is over, Brother Nero. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you can go ahead and email the show, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. But your emails, the smartest email segment on any political show, I guarantee it. Here's why. We got an actual dialogue here. We had a liberal listener say, hey, look, I'm actually just curious to listen to conservative podcasts. Can you guys recommend conservative podcasts? And we had, folks, go ahead and do it. B wrote, in a recent episode, somebody wrote in to ask about conservative pundits and podcasts they listen to in order to get a better feel and understanding for the other side. As somebody who grew up in a conservative household and still generally leans toward the idea of small government, I'm going to start off and say that the podcast scene these days is rather dismal. But if you're looking for talking heads who dog whistle to people's worst instinct or let people spew absolute nonsense with no pushback, hi, Rubin Report. However, there are some options. Econ Talk. Russ is more libertarian than Republican, and it gives an idea of what the Freedom Caucus Rand Paul types are thinking. The Economist podcast, while not strictly conservative and not always dedicated to politics, they do fall into conservation quite a bit about what's happening in the world of politics. The Morning Joel, there's an audio version. As much as Joe Scarborough gets labeled as part of the mainstream media, people forget that there was a good while there where he was a prominent Republican congressman from Florida. I mean, the panhandle doesn't count. He's also not afraid to call out the giant cluster F of a party that the current Republicans are. And oh God, I can't believe I'm suggesting this. Glenn Beck. Yes, Glenn Beck. Don't take him 100% seriously. He still occasionally writes on a blackboard and heads into weird conspiracies, but he's a decent bellwether on what the right-wing voters generally feel. The 538 podcast, listen, you want to cut through the bullshit? The guys and gals at 538 aren't going to lie to you. Yes, they have a left-leaning slant because of the amount of data that they research that they're required to do. They tend to go into much more detailed discussions about how Republicans and conservative voters feel, and they don't fall prey to hysteria such as, will Trump finally be impeached today? Lastly, if you're really looking to get out of the bubble, I'd really recommend following a number of different journalists and politicians on Twitter, specifically those that aren't involved in U.S. politics. For example, on the conservative side, there's Andrew Coyne, Michael Gove, Zachary Goldsmith, Ian Dunt, Ruth Davidson, David Allen Green, Blake Haushnell, Andrew Lawton, Lisa Raitt, and James Cowan are all example of people who are worth following for their articles and occasional long threads that they write. As much as Twitter is an awful platform to have a proper conversation about politics, it's helpful to get a better feel of the landscape, specifically if you cut out the talking heads and parrots. Thank you, B, for writing in. My take on this. I don't listen to Econ Talk. Morning Joe, to me, is a television show, so take it or leave it. If you like it, it's fine. Glenn Beck, I've always found fascinating. I would agree that he is a bellwether of a certain element of conservatism. I don't know how much I can listen to him. 538 is a podcast that I listen to on the regular. I will say that there are biases there. They are not necessarily binary, but they do a good job of trying to work against their biases. I can go through their biases. The two biggest ones are Jody Avirgan is a great host. He leans a little bit more mainstream liberal. And so his questions and where he directs the conversations tends to not necessarily shape the conversation toward mainstream liberal, but more ask questions that mainstream liberals want to ask, which, fair enough. And Nate Silver hates the New York Times. He hates them. That is his bias. He hates his old employer. He hates people that work there. He believes that the New York Times is actively doing damage to the American political system. So if you and it's not as simple as like Alex Jones going after the New York Times or Donald Trump going after the failing New York Times. He is the New York Times didn't cover Hillary's emails right, and they got Donald Trump elected. Like, that's how deep his hatred is for the New York Times. All right. Greg writes, you had an email asking about conservative shows last week. A funny conservative-leaning podcast is The Dick Show. hosted by Dick Masterson, former co-host of The Biggest Problem in the Universe with Maddox, writer of Men Are Better Than Women, and avowed Trump voter supporter. You should almost consider reaching out and getting him on as a guest to the show, as he treats political topics kind of similarly to you and considers himself a libertarian. It's not a political podcast, but when you're talking about current events, it's hard to not get a little political these days. Give it a shot. It's funny shit, and I'm a liberal. And Kevin writes, may I suggest Mad Dogs and the Englishman featuring Charles C.W. Cook and Kevin Williamson, both of the National Review, as a good quality conservative podcast. So, there you go. Wide range of conservative leading podcasts if you want to listen to it. By the way, if you only have room in your life for one political podcast, don't listen to any of them. You got all you need right here, Daddy. David writes, any possibility of Donald Trump actually being a liberal spy that has infiltrated the Republican Party to destroy the party with infighting and motivate liberals to push their liberal agenda through utilizing the liberal vitriol that exists toward him, asking for a friend. There's part of me that really just wants to do a Colbert-esque character that is just only conspiracies. Like, just do, if Colbert was Bill O'Reilly, like, I would want to do the Colbert version of Alex Jones. And this is the kind of conspiracy that I would push. Because I can make the argument. I can make the argument that he is indeed a liberal spy. Do I think it's true? No. But I can make the argument. Ya boy! Jeremy Lundy writes in with this article. Kid Rock has denied the Detroit Free Press credentials for his Little Caesars Arena concerts. This is a Detroit Free Press article. The Detroit Free Press is being denied press and photo credentials for tonight's Kid Rock concert, the grand opening of the taxpayer-subsidized Little Caesars Arena, due to the performer's unhappiness with a newspaper column critical of the musician. The decision, which was shared with the Detroit Free Press by Kid Rock's publicist, Kurt Webster, was made Monday afternoon and is in response to a column written by the editorial page editor, Stephen Henderson, that was critical of the decision to open the stadium with the controversial artist. You guys wrote a fucked up story and allowed it to be published. You want a quote? There it is. Webster told the Free Press in a phone call this morning. The newspaper routinely buys tickets to concerts, but the request for credentials allows reporters to bring in equipment necessary to file stories, such as laptops or cameras. On Sunday, September 3rd, Henderson published a column in which he called the decision to have Kid Rock open the arena a middle finger to Detroiters. This is the quote from the article. This is a musician who got rich off crass cultural appropriation of black music, who used to wrap his brand in the Confederate flag, a symbol inextricably linked to racism, no matter what its defenders say, and has repeatedly issued profane announcements to the very idea of an African American pushing against American inequality. Here's my point of view on this. This is why reporters hate editorial departments, because editorial departments are separated from the newsroom, because you want, theoretically, the voice of the paper to not be tainted by the day in, day out infighting or friendly relationship that they have with the sources that they're covering. However, it fucks the features department, right? Because it's the features department that has to write this article. It's the features department that has to write all this shit down and then go into the office and write it up later than they would otherwise if they were just in the press area with Wi-Fi and they could just pop out that whatever the article is and send it, file it from the arena. Can't now. Is it petty by Kid Rock? Yeah, it's petty. And that's that. This happens a lot. It'll happen more. Whatever. We're going to end on this. Greg writes, I seriously feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This is going to sound pessimistic. Ron Howard voice. It is. Back when Obama passed the Affordable Care Act, he had all these Republicans coming out and virtue signaling about how super serial they were about repealing Obamacare. They held failed votes to repeal it over and over and over again about how super serial they were. And then they had the power, and we quickly learned that they had no fucking idea about what to do about health care. Now I'm pretty sure that the Democrats are about to do the exact same thing. Bernie's got his single-payer health care bill that's making the rounds. One after another, Democrats are coming out virtue signaling about how now is the time for single payer. They will attempt to bring this bill for a vote, and it will fail. And they'll try again and again and again, ad nauseum, just like the Republicans. But when the Democrats get back into power, yeah. I have a feeling that the exact same thing is going to happen, but reversed. Fuck. Greg, you are the reason that we have the smartest emailers in the political podcast space. By the way, you can email, but your emails can come to theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Oh, wait, shit. We missed one. Sorry. Colin wrote, I don't know what MAGA means. Seriously. Is it the onomatopoeia for the Trump train? He said, it's gone too far. I don't know who to ask. What does MAGA mean? Colin, although Google is your friend, I'm not going to tell you. It's just too funny that there is somebody wandering the earth who doesn't know what MAGA means. I'm sorry. This is here for all of us. And by the way, it's so much in the spirit of this show for me to call everybody who listens to this show the smartest people in political podcasts and then read that email. You also can write in theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. If you want the mega feed of literally everything I do, from politics to professional wrestling to everything in between, go ahead and follow at Jury Megafeed, Jury Mega Feed. Of course, you can download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. Folks, until next time, some people talk about politics, others talk about politics, still more. They try to talk about politics. This is the only show that talks about all three. See y'all later.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.